In June 1966, a crime shook the small town of Shimizu in Japan's Shizuoka Prefecture. A factory manager, his wife, and their 2 children were found brutally murdered in their home, which was then set ablaze. The gruesome details of this quadruple homicide led to a rapid investigation. A few days later, police arrested Iwao Hakamada, a former professional boxer working at the factory. His life would be forever altered as he quickly became the prime suspect in one of Japan's most notorious criminal cases. But before we dive into the story, make sure to smash that like button, hit subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you never miss out on our exciting stories. Hakamada's ordeal began with hours of grueling police interrogations, which spanned over 23 consecutive days. Isolated and with no legal representation, he eventually confessed to the crime under duress. However, Hakamada later retracted his confession, claiming that it had been coerced through threats and physical abuse. Despite his retraction, the confession, along with key pieces of evidence including clothing allegedly stained with the victim's blood, sealed his fate. In 1968, he was sentenced to death. For decades, Hakamada sat on death row, maintaining his innocence while the world outside moved on. His case attracted global attention, raising concerns over Japan's judicial process and its heavy reliance on confessions, often obtained under questionable circumstances. In Japan, where the conviction rate exceeds 99%, Hakamada's plight became a symbol of the dangers inherent in such a system. Years later, new evidence would come to light that called Hakamada's conviction into question. DNA tests revealed that the bloodstains on the clothing, which had been crucial in securing his conviction, did not match either Hakamada or the victims. This discovery set in motion a long legal battle to free him, culminating in a retrial in 2014. However, it wasn't until 2024 that a court formally acquitted him of all charges. Despite his newfound freedom, the long years of imprisonment took a toll on Hakamada's mental health. Today, he lives with his sister Hideko, who had been his strongest advocate throughout his legal struggle. Though physically free, Hakamada remains trapped in a world of confusion and detachment, a tragic testament to the scars left by his prolonged incarceration. Hakamada's case continued to captivate public interest as his retrial dragged on for years. Despite being released in 2014, his official exoneration took another decade due to the slow pace of Japan's legal system. The evidence that had once condemned him was now recognized as unreliable, including the so-called bloodstains found on clothing submerged in a miso tank. Experts argued that the stains could not have remained intact after being buried in miso for over a year, further discrediting the case against Hakamada. The legal team fought to prove that investigators had tampered with the evidence and forced Hakamada's confession. The 2024 court ruling not only cleared his name but also ignited a renewed debate over the use of confessions in Japan's criminal justice system, where coercive interrogation techniques were often employed to secure convictions. Hakamada's trial became a symbol of the flaws in this system, which has long been criticized for its nearly perfect conviction rate, driven largely by confessions that may not be obtained legally. However, for Hakamada himself, the victory came too late. After spending over 45 years on death row, much of it in solitary confinement, his mental health had deteriorated significantly. Today, he rarely speaks and struggles to interact with others, a direct result of his prolonged isolation. His sister, Hideko, who had fought tirelessly for his release, continues to care for him, though it is clear that the man she knew has been irrevocably changed by his experience. Despite his fragile state, Hakamada has found some solace in small pleasures, such as caring for 2 cats that Hideko adopted for him. Every afternoon, he enjoys car rides with his supporters, stopping to buy pastries and juice. Simple joys that help him reconnect albeit faintly, with a world that has moved on without him. The long legal battle for his freedom, while successful, highlights the profound human cost of injustice, a cost that will likely linger with Hakamata for the rest of his life. The long and grueling legal battle for Hakamata's exoneration has not only spotlighted the flawed judicial process, but also raised crucial questions about Japan's use of the death penalty. International human rights organizations have long criticized Japan's death row conditions, particularly the practice of keeping inmates in prolonged solitary confinement and the abrupt nature of executions, often carried out with little to no notice to the prisoner or their family. Hakamata's case has fueled a broader movement against capital punishment in Japan. Organizations such as Amnesty International have highlighted his story as emblematic of the need for reform, arguing that the potential for wrongful convictions, especially in a system that prioritizes confessions over hard evidence, makes capital punishment a grave risk. This case also sparked intense debate within Japan itself, where public opinion on the death penalty remains divided. Supporters of capital punishment often argue that it serves as a necessary deterrent for heinous crimes. But cases like Hakamata's challenge the notion of a foolproof system. His wrongful conviction based on falsified evidence and a coerced confession demonstrates how easily the justice system can fail, leading to devastating consequences. Now free but mentally fragile, Hakamata's story has encouraged many to push for change in the way Japan handles its criminal investigations. For some, his case is a stark reminder that even a single mistake in the justice system can have irreversible effects. His acquittal, though a cause for celebration, is bittersweet, as the psychological toll of nearly half a century on death row cannot be undone. The case of Iwao Hakamata, while emblematic of systemic issues within Japan's judicial process, has also served as a reminder of the resilience of the human spirit. Even though his mental health has been severely affected, his supporters and legal team remain committed to ensuring his well-being. His sister Hideko, in particular, has been instrumental in advocating for his release and continues to care for him daily, striving to bring some semblance of normalcy back to his life. Hakamata's story has transcended borders, capturing international attention and serving as a powerful symbol of the fight for justice in cases of wrongful conviction. His retrial and eventual exoneration in 2024 came after years of campaigning by human rights organizations, both inside and outside Japan, making him one of the most significant figures in the global conversation about judicial reform. In the end, Hakamata's release is both a triumph and a tragedy. While justice was ultimately served, the decades of wrongful imprisonment have left scars that may never fully heal. His case has prompted a reevaluation of the use of capital punishment and interrogation techniques in Japan, but for Hakamata, who spent nearly half a century waiting for the verdict, the damage has already been done. His legacy, however, continues to influence ongoing debates about the fairness of the criminal justice system, not only in Japan but around the world, with advocates calling for the abolition of the death penalty and the improvement of investigative practices. Hakamata's story will likely resonate for years to come.